morning. Oh, that's just beautiful. Good morning to you, and welcome back to today's JRPG Weekly Update. I'm SuperDerek, and we've got a bit of news to talk about today, starting with what I'm dubbing Mo Trails No Problems. And we're talking about Falcom, who recently published a financial report for the last fiscal year, and in it, on the 17th page of that slide presentation that they went over some of what they're planning to do for their investors in the coming fiscal year. And thanks to RPGFang.com's translation of the slides, we can expect a variety of things coming up. That's very exciting, including multiple titles in 2021 in celebration of Falcom's 40th anniversary. 40 years for Nihon Falcom. Can you believe that, in 2021? So they started back in 81, which makes absolute sense, but it's crazy to think about. God, they're just so old. You've been around almost 40 years, and I'm feeling a bit older now as well, just thinking about it. But anyways, in addition to just the fact that their 40th anniversary is coming up, they're continuing to push for multiple console releases, including PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, smartphones, and PC. And also, it looks like they're planning to release another new Trails game in Japan by September of 2021, which is crazy because they just released Hajimare no Kiseki. That's a very quick turnaround for another title. By this time next year, we'll have a new Trails to be talking about besides Hajimare, which is just fine by me. I mean, I've only played 2 of the Trails in the Sky games so far. Actually, I'm about to be starting to play Trails in the Sky the third over on Twitch today, in fact. But already I've fallen in love with the series, as you've no doubt been able to tell based on my reviews of Trails in the Sky first chapter and the second chapter. So yeah, that's exciting news. Also, we got some new games and ports announced that we'll be talking about here, starting with Nioh 2, the complete edition that's been announced for coming to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Steam on February 5th. Now, this PlayStation 5 version is planned to feature a lot of following enhancements here, including 4K 120 frames per second, improved visual fidelity, faster loading times, cross-platform save data, and data transfer between the two. So it says that it's coming to PlayStation 4, but I believe that those features are basically just, you can play it on PS4, but most of these features, aside from all the DLC, are mostly going to be showing up on the PlayStation 5 and PC version if your PC can handle 4K 120 frames, which is not an easy feat. So the PS5 really does seem to be a pretty powerful tool from what I've been seeing here, and oh, well, we shall see when I eventually get my hands on one. At some point, I'm on the subject of like this next gen stuff. I'm like, can't we still just play PlayStation 3 games and be happy? I've got a PlayStation 4. I will get a PlayStation 5, but at some point, like I'm probably just gonna have to wait and get one used, so I can, be, because I'm stingy like that, I guess. I shouldn't be, but I am. But anyways, in other news, this is kind of exciting. Level 5 of Japan have trademarked World Trick in both Japanese as well as in English. And that's something from level 5 that is neither Yokai Watch nor is it Ni no Kuni. I'm, for one, very excited. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. I mean, trademarks come and go. I mean, let's not forget that Chrono Break was trademarked like 20 years ago and we never saw anything of it. But this is an indication that they are working on possibly a new game, and that possibly that new game will still come stateside, despite the fact that we were recently talking about how they were closing their North America offices and laying off a bunch of people in there. So that further lends credence to the idea that they'll still be bringing games over to the West, just not using their own in-house localization team, which is fine. So yeah, I guess that's great. So, also, we got some kind of interesting other news from not a likely source. Publisher Dark Horse Books have made an announcement that Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, the story before Kingdom Hearts 3, is going to be launching up in June 15th of 2021. And this is going to be kind of like a big old hardback book full of art and lore and concept art and storyboards rather. And it looks like it's going to cover everything before Kingdom Hearts 3, essentially everything from Kingdom Hearts 1 all the way up through their mobile game Unchained X. And it's going to feature just all kinds of interesting stuff, I guess. Let's be real. Kingdom Hearts has this mystique about it that a lot of people just really love to dive into, and I think it's messy as heck, the lore, to try to suss it all out. It's not an easy task, and maybe this book will make that task a little easier, but I'm guessing it's not going to add a whole lot of extra stuff to the lore that we didn't already know, or that the ultra nerds of Kingdom Hearts didn't already know. You know, I think it could still be really great as a collector's item, but it will be about $45, which is not inexpensive, but it is a hardback book, so, you know, take that for what it is. It's going to be selling off in comic book shops, Barnes & Nobles, and on Amazon, so make sure you have your bots ready, because that's probably going to sell out immediately. In SuperDerek news, last week on Friday, I released my review of Arcrise Fantasia, a game that took me about 100 hours to finish. And it's definitely unique in the sense that it has a really great battle system, but everything else about it is kind of wonky. It's one of those things that it's got a really like so bad it's good voice acting kind of cast, and the story's all right, but holy crap, the battle system really, I think, makes it stand out as something that might still be worthwhile, and it's a really challenging game. So if you've been kind of bored and just need some game that'll get that challenge going for you, that you feel like you just need something to sink your teeth into, this has that. So check out the review if you want to know more about that game. And that leaves us with today's JRPG Weekly Forecast. Starting with Thursday, November 19th, we've got Azure Break Heroes, which is a roguelike that's coming to Nintendo Switch and PC. And also, you know how last week I talked about Star Renegades? Well, that game is coming out on November 19th as well. That's that gorgeous sprite-based, turn-based RPG by Massive Damage, Inc. And they're going to be coming out on Nintendo Switch and Xbox One, but also on PlayStation 5 next week. So if you don't have Xbox One or Nintendo Switch right now, but you have a PS5, you can just wait a week and get it there. And then also on Friday, November 20th, a lot of people have been looking forward to this one, including myself, but I'm probably not going to be able to play it. But it's Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And this is that really cool, like a Breath of the Wild aesthetic Hyrule Warriors game set in the Breath of the Wild universe. And it looks really cool. It's coming to Nintendo Switch exclusively, as if you would expect to see that anywhere else. So last week at the very beginning of the episode, I asked you guys to name the first game that came to mind when I said the word JRPG. And here is what you guys said. A lot of responses here for Final Fantasy, a lot of responses here for Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger and Suikoden. Basically, now for those of you who are curious about my methodology here, basically I took the first game title anybody wrote. If you listed like 4 or 5 games, I just took the first one because the question was the first one that came to mind, so I figured the first one that you typed is probably the first one that came to mind. And I did top-level comments only, so if you buried your response deep into the comments of somebody else's response, I didn't count it, sorry. But I think all of that is probably just going to even out in the noise because we got almost 400 responses to the question, which I think is pretty exciting. The most responses to the question of the week that I've ever seen. What this is really telling me, though, based on what I'm seeing it's especially telling when I show you the graph this way. And what I've done here is I've just combined all of the Squaresoft or Enix or Square Enix titles together and grouped them together and then grouped everything else together. And what we're seeing is that just, I guess, talking about mind share for the word JRPG, what we'll see here is that Square Enix has an absolute monopoly on the term JRPG. When you think JRPGs, it's inseparable from Squaresoft or Square Enix or Enix, some combination of those, because Final Fantasies, Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Xenogears just dominated a lot of your responses. I suspect that the era in which you grew up is going to have a massive influence over what kind of response you have to JRPG as well. I will say, as a small takeaway, it's very awesome that I saw that we got one response for Terranigma out there. Thank you, dude. And I saw one other person who had responded Mother 3. I was very surprised. Very little people responded with Mother or Earthbound as one of the responses. What do you think? Does this say anything of meaning to you, anything of value? Except I think what it really shows is that Square Enix has been dominating the charts, and also I think that it's showing that Falcom is really making a huge difference lately, because when you take a look at that other chart, we're seeing the Kiseki series and the Tales series, Bandai Namco, showing up here, and Atlas. And then other than that, a lot of series that just aren't worked on very much anymore. But I suspect if I had asked this question years ago, I'm guessing the Kiseki series would not be on here at all, or very low on the list. But it's really interesting to see the strides that series is making as it ascends through the ranks of otherwise series that have been pillars of the JRPG genre up to this point. They're just gathering mindshare very quickly, which is very exciting, and I think representative of just how great of an experience the Trails series has been so far. But maybe I'm just biased. What are your takeaways on that? And that's my question for you guys. Anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. It has been a pleasure. I am SuperDerek, and this has all been news to me. Have a great week, everybody.